Thanks everyone, and it's my privilege to welcome all the esteemed panelists that has been introduced by the MCs for this important session. We had a very interesting first session. We talked about at a CEO roundtable. We talked about different challenges, different opportunities in natural gas sector, and the role of LNG in it. So in this session, we will look more into gas and LNG infrastructure. What are the bottlenecks? What are the opportunities? And as has been identified in the previous session, India is looking in 2030 to at least add 50% more LNG infrastructure from current 50 million tons to getting close to almost 80 million tons. We are looking at regulations, different regulations. LNG in small scale LNG is being coming up. PNGRB is being working very aggressively on coming up with new regulations. So a lot of infrastructure regulations, support, ecosystem is being developed. And I think this session probably would answer some of the questions. So without wasting anyone's time, I will pose my first question to Sumit Verma ji. And as your role as a principal consultant PNGRB, how is PNGRB enabling regulatory reforms and new initiatives to address connectivity and gas evacuation from current and planned LNG terminals?
Good afternoon. Thank you for your question. It's a pleasure to be here. I would like to thank Messi Frankfurt for organizing this conference. Now, to address your question, Puneet, PNGRB, as far as infrastructure is concerned, LNG terminals is concerned, it has recently come up with LNG terminal regulations, which were pending for a long time because common carrier was an issue. So these regulations are very simple in terms of the fact that there is no common carrier involved. So the LNG terminals will have to, register free to develop LNG terminal infrastructure on its own without taking PNGRB into account. And when the terminal would come up, then of course the terminal operators would have to, approach PNGRB to evacuate their gas. So there was a sort of of course they were in touch with the ministry, of course, but there was a slightly disconnect between terminals and pipelines. And, so later on the pipeline work would start off. Now these regulations would definitely, help in synchronizing because this would enable an integrated approach that you require a terminal, this sort of a capacity terminal is asking for a registration. And then the thinking starts that, how do you evacuate that gas from the word go? So then in sync, the pipeline also has to come up. So I think this is a welcome step that regulations have come up. And now that the new LNG terminals that would come up in sync with this thing. And as far as, a role of PNGRB is concerned, so, several terminals were facing these issues. Now that, of course, Hazira and Dahej, they are extremely well connected. But, Dabhol has now come up with breakwater after years. So now Dabhol requires evacuation, and there is not much demand in the south. So PNGRB has just authorized the DUPL expansion. So that will enable Dabhol to, expand its capacity after the breakwater. So it will be an all-weather terminal. And the DUPL expansion would enable it to take it northwards. Similarly, the new terminal at Mundra that came up, so there was no connectivity straight away towards Rajasthan. So now the Anjar-Palanpur pipeline has been authorized, which will help them evacuate this up north via Rajasthan. So similarly, terminals at other places like, Dhamra. Dhamra was initially 25% capacity last year, but now it has gone up to 41% and it is probably the second most utilized terminal now because, connectivities have been established now that Paradeep is also getting connected. So I think a lot of connectivity work has happened. Of course, we have a problem at Ennore and Kochi because these are sort of islanded, but of course Ennore is also getting connected. It's a small connectivity that is required, and Ennore-Kodapalli pipeline is also coming up. So I think we will have a very well connected network very shortly, if not already done in this regard.
Thank you, sir. My next question is to Debashishi. We look at the PNGRB regulations, but as a terminal operator for HPCL, you see that India's import infrastructure has expanded, but we are almost close to only 40-50% utilization is there, and that utilization is also very lopsided. Means if you look at the Dahej terminal, it's 97% utilized. Other terminals are even struggling to get 25-30% utilization. So, from an operator's perspective, what are the key measures you see that is required to improve utilization for LNG terminals and thus make it more cost effective for gas to be reached to consumers?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. As we see, last year the total capacity was 52.5 MMT in all the LNG terminals put together, and the utilization was about 50% overall, but it is very lopsided. So some of the newer terminals, particularly as Sunit sir already explained, that because of connectivity issues, the utilization was very low. In our case also, Chhara also, the project commissioning got delayed 1 year because of the pipeline not being there. Now, when anybody puts up a terminal, it's basically two projects. One is the terminal itself, second is the pipeline, connecting it to the grid. So what happens is that it is very, very difficult. There are so many issues involved. It's very, very difficult to sync both together so that they get commissioned together. In most of the cases, it has happened like that. The pipeline was authorized, pipeline was planned, but because of ROU issues and several issues, the pipeline gets delayed. In some cases, for example, ours, the terminal was put up by HPCL. So HPCL, the major, I would say the base load was to come from internal requirements only. Now, one of the major consumption centers, for example, Vizag refinery, which probably our utilization would have doubled if had that come on stream. The end pipeline connectivity was authorized by PNGRB in 2014. Now, even after 10 years, the line has not come. And now the fresh authorization is being done, probably another 3 years it will come. So, some of these cases, the utilization is low because of the connectivity issues. Second is that the low demand. Now, how demand will grow? Basically, any customer wants competitive and stable pricing. Now, unfortunately, last 5 years, it was neither competitive nor stable. Within a year itself, last year, gas prices, LNG prices have gone as high as 20 and as low as 7.5. So for somebody to convert, the stable pricing is needed. So this pricing part of the LNG, that I think it will take care of itself because about 50% capacity addition in the liquefaction capacity is going to happen in the next 5 years. 50% of that, I mean 25% of the existing capacity will come upstream in the next 2 years only. So we hope that by 27 or so, the stable as well as low pricing will take care of itself. The other issue is the tax structure. For the customer, it becomes economical if gas is under GST because then he gets the credit for that also. And the other, in VAT also, there are like different VAT rates in different states. Like most of the terminals are in Gujarat. Gujarat has a very high VAT rate. Maharashtra has very low. So at least if it is not brought under GST, if the VAT rate can be like rationalized with a more or less uniform rate, that will help us, help the terminals a lot. Then one more point which in the last panel it was talked about the newer sectors like mining and all, the LNG trucking. So here there is a, from government, from PNGRB, from even PESO, there is a push to enable LNG consumption in these sectors. The infrastructure obviously has to come first. There is no chicken and egg question here. The chicken has to come first. So the infrastructure has to come first and then only the customers convert. So this rapid development of the infrastructure in these fields is a necessity which is happening because of government push as well as PNGRB's active role in that. So that is one thing I think demand will pick up fast if that comes. Some incentives in some places. We can say a combination of incentive and mandates. For example, in the power sector and others will help. One more point, key measures which I would suggest is that whether it is in the aegis of the gas exchanges or otherwise, if there is a portal where people can easily book capacity in the terminal as well as in the pipeline. So that is something in a very transparent manner if it happens. I think that transport system operator initiative, which is there, probably that could help. So that will help in rapid booking, getting a confirmation immediately, and that will help in developing our market. So I think most of these things.
Thanks, sir.
will
So
help.
yeah, we have seen the points from an infrastructure connectivity to demand-side measures, as well as regulatory reforms, which would provide transparent and open access to almost all of the capacity booking could be one of the key measures. So I think we have already identified LNG gas pipelines as one of the key enabler for terminal utilization. So my next question is to Neeraj ji. So you see that pipeline connectivity remains a critical bottleneck for LNG connections. Sunit Verma ji and Debashish ji has identified this point. What investment or policy intervention is needed that could escalate, that could increase or escalate pipeline expansion in this sector, and we don't see that connectivity remains a challenge, which causes terminal underutilization.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Puneet, for the question. But I'll take this in two stages. First is that there are certain existing regulations. We need to leverage those regulations. Firstly, PNGRB has already set the stage by introducing the unified tariff, which has the ability to roll in even the pipelines which are in itself has a higher tariff. Like we have seen recently, the new pipeline, Indradhanush gas pipeline, has been commissioned, which in itself is a quite costly. But however, after rolling into the unified tariff, that is economical for the customers. So customers are now well aware about what tariff they are likely to pay, even if the new investments come. So that, keeping that in place, there are other conceptual regulations are there, like public notices and the concept of a public consultation process, open houses, that is similar to the open season in some of the other countries. So those regulations can be further leveraged by introducing a road shows, by creating more awareness along the pipeline route, whatever we are planning, so that the customers can be more focusedly address the prospective customers on the pipeline, so that they can upfront commit on the pipelines, so which make the pipeline viable. So it will be easy for the investor to invest in such a scenarios. Similarly, for the customers also, those who are ready to commit upfront, like a primary shippers, we can think of some better terms or some concessional terms kind of a thing, so that they will be encouraged to commit some capacity upfront to make the project viable. Similarly, what we can also think of to review the bidding criteria, which now envisages an estimation of around 30 years, whoever entity is bidding, which is kind of a challenging and create an uncertainty. So that aspect we need to review. The 30 years is quite a long for the investor to invest. Similarly, at the tariff regulation, and also if we can bring some clarity on the some kind of assurance on the revenue what investor is going to get, so that will bring a more confidence to them. And even at the authorization front, we can think of regulations which make the investor entry or exit bit easy, even because as of now, exit is taken as a negative thing. Let there be some upfront kind of a fee. Instead of struggling with litigations, it is better to allow that entity to exit. These are some of the enablers which attract investments. That's my idea. And further, there is another regulation which Sunit ji has said that with regard to the LNG thing. So it's already in place, and wherein it is envisaged that whenever anyone is giving any proposal of LNG terminal to PNGRB, they have to also provide an evacuation plan, so that even the evacuation part also can be planned along with the terminal and align along with the development. So these are some of the things which we can look into to ensure that connectivity is there on time and make that even that sector of transmission attractive for the investor.
Thanks, Neeraj ji. And as you correctly pointed out, there are certain changes needs to be looked at, authorization and the tariff part. And Sarav sir did talk about in its morning keynote speech that Vision 2040 report that PNGRB has constituted, the committee has come up with some of the ideas. So those ideas, along with industries and roadshows, probably put a path forward which makes our regulations more investor friendly, encourage investor and faster execution into the pipelines. My next question is to Amol Kulkarni ji. So as a key stakeholder in the entire natural gas space, CGD is one of the biggest stakeholder where we see the demand increase to happen by 2030. So as a CGD operator, how do you view those LNG infrastructure gaps in city gas development? Does more LNG infrastructure or current gaps in the LNG infrastructure, does it create any hindrance to city gas development? And this is questions more focused on particularly tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So those LNG infrastructure, pipeline infrastructure, do you see what challenges CGDs are facing and how we can overcome those challenges to develop CGDs into those tier 2, tier 3 GAs?
So thank you, Puniji, very much. Thank you, Messe Frankfurt, for having this wonderful session. And you have selected a right person or a right company to answer this question, because we, among this panel, we are the people who are directly connected with the customer, who is using the gas in the kitchen. So each gap of infrastructure, how it is impacting, firstly, we need to understand the gap. Secondly, we need to understand the impact. And thirdly, we need to talk about the solutions or enablers which can reduce these gaps in future. So from the end customer perspective, to give you the perspective, yesterday evening I was just came across one reel on this LinkedIn. Maksuji, it was yours one. You were showing your terminal in Anand. So two things shining in that. One was the tank. Second, I don't have to mention. For sure. Yeah. Gustaki maaf. But that was he was saying that this is a 6th LNG dispensing station. That time.
It was the second one, but we have completed 6.
Okay. So this is when we are talking about in numbers, handful of numbers, we are very happy about it that this is LNG dispensing facilities across India, how much we have. One important thing, which again, similar thing, I was traveling to this venue and I listened to one ad on this radio, FM radio. They're talking about EVs. So when talking about EVs, they are telling that I don't want to use EV, ये गोवा नहीं जाएगा. So he was telling that गोवा क्या गोलकोंडा भी जाएगा. अभी across India there are 29,800 EVs charging stations. So from common consumer perspective, when we are talking about LNG as a fuel also for a vehicle, we are having a huge gap. So this is for LNG. Even for CNG, PNG, we have not reached in many areas. So this is the gap. Secondly, why there is a gap? We are talking about the pipeline connectivity is missing. We talked about, Sunitji told about 2 pipelines. One was for this KKMM BL pipeline, and second was for NR. For both of these pipelines, as a company, we are impacted because both our GAs are there, and this pipeline connectivity would definitely help us. Infrastructure gaps for pipelines is there. Secondly, there is a gap between the mindset gap between the consumer that we need to enable them to bridge this mindset gap also for CNG, LNG, or even for PNG. So that aspect also we need to work on. Regarding some solutions, maybe we have tried multiple things, but we are majorly dependent on traditional things. We are either sourcing domestic gas or we are dependent on the gas which is sourced by the terminals and then purchased by us. One solution where my company is trying, Manmohan Ahuja ji is sitting here, he has been advocating for this for quite a long, that we need to think something which is much more different in the aspect, but having sourcing the LNG in ISO containers. So that way we can get LNG from any country. I can get it on Mundra port. I can transport it over a rail network to dry port in Ludhiana, and from there I can use it in my GA. The transportation cost which I will be able to reduce for this way, maybe definitely more than pipeline, but definitely lesser than what I have to bear for transporting it from Dahej to Ludhiana directly. This will reduce a lot of cost, which ultimately we will be passing on to customers. So these type of solutions we need to think on when it comes to infrastructure gaps. So that's it.
Thank you. So my next question is to Maksud Sheikh Ji. As one of the new emerging sectors, you talked about LNG retail station, and that is, last session also talked about LNG in mining, and even very Keynote Express people has expressed the opinion LNG in mining to be a growth sector. So how do you how do you see this sector, this new niche sector to be grow, and what are the challenges do you see in this sector, and what opportunities do you see?
Thanks, Puneet. Good afternoon to everybody. Puneet, how much time I have to answer? Because you know you can't stop me. Thank you. So just taking on from where Amol left, what are we into the business of? Are we selling natural gas? I would say no. I've been doing it for donkey's years now. We sell hope. Has anybody seen a natural gas? I have not. Has anybody felt it is odorless? And we all know what you can't feel, how are we selling? So we are hopeful that someday we will win and we will go to 15%. And that happens to be 2030. Somebody asked a question, I'll just take a connotation back there. Somebody asked a question that what should be the rate of growth every year to achieve from 6.7% to 15% of the mix of natural gas by 2030. Very simple calculation, 100 MMSCMD per year. That is the number that we have to achieve. Where are we today? 188 MMSCMD. So, Delhi dur hai. Though we are in Delhi, it is far away. So, all the efforts that we are making cannot be the conventional way. And Amol, sorry, but we don't think, we execute. So there was a pun intended, apologies for that, but it was on a lighter side. We don't think, we execute. That's the change we made where I come from. So we spoke about the egg and the chick, we spoke about the infrastructure. So I'll just take back you to one of the president of United States who said, and these are his quotes, not mine, but I'll correlate it where we are today. So he said that if things don't move, subsidize it. If thing moves, tax it. If starts moving, regulate it. And that's what we did in this business. Coal is growing at a rate of 5.5% every year in this same country. Petrol is growing at 4.9%. I see my friends from HPCL, they can endorse my statement. And diesel is growing at 2%. But why is natural gas stagnant? And Sunitji, no intention towards PNGRB. I have very good friends there. It is about how did we take up this business. We were very happy in Gujarat. I come from land of Gujarat, where it was my Karam Bhumi or my workplace. We grew that business to 26%. I'm talking about way back in 2009. After that, 2010, 11, 12, regulation came and stagnation started. We didn't grow. The country has moved. I was told by in one of the conferences last week, we went to up to 11%. And then we came back to 6.7%. The reality is there is something missing. While our efforts are high, but we are missing some link. My friend Debashish just said, the terminal was ready. And we were waiting to sign up. And I happened to one of the customer of HP LNG. We were waiting evacuation. It didn't happen because the pipe did not reach. But since we were into business of liquid, we had a way out. So we need to have way out in all this perspective. Why I'm giving you this perspective, Puneet, is purely if we don't fight and we keep discussing in conferences, we will keep thinking. Again, sorry Amol, not to you, but your company's name happens to be Thingas, so I will always go back there. So the thinking has to stop and execution has to start. What we have done, we created a demand of our own. We wanted to get into LNG as a distributed fuel. Ultra gas, way back in 2021, it got incorporated with our chairman's vision very clearly, war on diesel. Why? That was the commodity we thought had the largest arbitrage to LNG prevailing prices at that time. So we said, if we look at this replacement fuel, then definitely we don't have to wait for a subsidy to come in. Again, taking back to Mr. Reagan's statement, which I quoted, if any product or any business or any model is independent of subsidy, it will stand on its own feet. And coincidentally, we are. For 4 years, we actually executed, corrected, executed. We operate now 6 LNG stations. We are refueling every day, roughly around 250 trucks powered by LNG. Not waiting for somebody to bring in the truck. We brought the truck of our own with a design from Iveco. Definitely, it's a separate company. It runs independent. Blue Energy Motors is the name. Then we thought, who will transport or who will utilize these machines? These machines have to be utilized. So we created a company called as Green Line Logistics, which is nothing but a green mobility company. Ultra Gas, which is my responsibility, is to make sure we fuel everybody who comes on the road, including our own Green Line company, which we operate at arm's length. 3 companies, 3 management, they run independent. But yes, the ecosystem helped each other. And today, I'm proud to announce that we are running 700 LNG trucks of our own. We are refueling almost 200 out of 400 other trucks that are plying. The country has 1,100 registered LNG trucks on road. These are all 55 GVW. That means its gross weight capacity is 55 tons, and it can drive a 41 tons of payload. So that changes if you don't execute, you don't have a use case. Now today, we are very happy to say we do manage and we learn every day. And we learn with our suppliers, like a lot of interaction with Debashish and his team. We have HPCL team here. We had GAIL here. We interact with them on daily basis. Every day we are learning something or the other on managing LNG. Piped, it requires a lot of time. I've done 18 years of pipeline business. And I know in Gujarat, it was easy for us because it was a government-backed company. We could lay the infrastructure fairly quicker than what we are facing at Kochi or we are facing at the other location. So pipeline, the alternative to it is look out at LNG, and this business is not of competition. It is just collaboration. If the pipeline entities, the CGDs, and the LNG operators join hands, I'm sure 15% is no dream, we will cross it. Let's not get into competition mode, the mindset stops working. That's the only thing I wanted to say. Thanks, Puneet, for the time.
Thank you, sir. And very interesting examples you have given, like how 3 companies are being created to create an own ecosystem. This could be a collaboration, we could look at a broader scale. And that may be a success story, and that may be a pathway to becoming a 15%. My next question is to Puruji. Very interestingly, asset lifecycle management plays a critical role now in either talk about LNG dispensing stations, small scale or LNG stations, or even pipeline projects. So how do you see advanced digital tools which would help address safety and efficiency gap in India's natural gas sector?
Good afternoon, everyone. And thanks for giving this opportunity to be part of this esteemed panel. And before I respond to the question, I would still remember the statement of Maqsood sir stating about having a hope. So I recall an incident. Sunday morning, the PNG supply at my place was disrupted due to a gas leakage. And it was the hope which ensured that after 30 minutes, I was able to get my cup of tea. And why this hope came into picture? The hope came because of the digitization of the technologies or the way we are reaching out to our customers. The digital tools, the application helped me to reach out to the customer care to get that hope that yes, I can get the supply restored within next 30 minutes. So digital technology plays an important role here. another classic example, we are talking about LNG infrastructure. So LNG infrastructures are somewhere around set up between a cost of, say, a $5 billion investment to up to a $25 billion investment. So if an organization which is going to invest $25 billion, they would be definitely looking out for the solutions which can help them to deploy the infrastructure in a flexible, accurate, and a transparent manner. This was achieved by the Queensland, by the team at Queensland in the Surat project, Surat Basin project. So they developed a pipeline of almost 530 kilometers long with multiple manufacturing facilities and processing facilities, and they were able to deliver the project on time. So digital technologies play a pivotal role in the complete asset lifecycle management of our LNG infrastructure. And with a vision of reaching up to a 15% target by 2030, it is really, really important that we look asset lifecycle management in a holistic approach. This holistic approach doesn't start at the stage where we are talking about the infrastructure when it has been laid out. We are talking about the holistic approach during the design phase, during the construction phase, during the operation phase, and the maintenance phase. When we couple all of these phases together, we can leverage the digital tools to build a digital backbone. Now, this digital backbone can ensure our operations in a seamless manner and can be extended to the entire asset lifecycle of our infrastructure.
Thank you. So we talked about digitalization in the pipeline, and you give some examples. Now, linking it with that, my next question is to Neeraj ji. We see the tariff in the pipelines, and to reduce the tariff and make gas competitive at the end user price, we need to reduce cost and increase operational efficiencies. So what do you see the relevance of technologies as well as new initiatives in reducing operational costs, increasing efficiency for pipeline sector?
Yeah, thanks, Puneet. Actually, digitization is no more an option. It is a requirement as of now. And digitization is nothing but having a robust system in place, ensuring safe and secure operations of the pipeline. And we talk about the operation of the pipeline in PIL, if we say that there are pipeline integrated management system we are using, wherein we are collating all the operational data at one place, which enable us for a quicker decision making, so that whatever corrective measures or even how to flow the volumes on a particular day, keeping in view the gas profile of the pipeline, those all decision making are now at a minute's time. In fact, that is not only the decision at our PI level, even we have collaborated with our OEMs who are sitting in outside India at various global locations. They are also monitoring our pipeline through our pipeline application software which we have, which we are using. Therein that whenever if required, they can immediately guide us for any corrective measures we need to take on day-to-day basis also. Similarly, all our operations, how to flow a volume on a particular day and optimizing our system use gas, which is one of the critical factor of cost in the pipeline operations. So those all things are now presently we are doing through a digitization with the help of digitization and no time. Similarly, if we say even in the business scenarios also, we are collecting through we have a data lake software wherein we are collecting all our business data and at such a short time so that we can communicate the all volumes to the customers, which enables customers also to manage their portfolios, whatever corrective measure if they require to take, even during the day they can take or immediately on the next day. And the other important aspect of digitization is the maintenance. Maintenance, which is the backbone of the pipeline, there digitization is playing very critical role. And where we have in fact crossed many distance in the maintenance of the pipeline. We started with the reactive maintenances whenever something happened, only then we were taking action. Then we moved to the predictive thing, considering the behavior of the system. Then based on that, based on the certain man hours or life of the asset, we start maintaining that asset. Then we come to the stage where we are preventing things now. So keeping the behavior of the equipment or the assets, we were preventing those things. In fact, one of the study also suggests that preventing measures have resulted in not only the saving in downtime of the assets, but also the life cycle of the assets of the result, and cost and the energy saving is the inherent feature of all these steps of digitizations. So whenever we are taking any such steps, which is resulting in a faster collation of data and quicker decision making, avoiding any losses in the systems, those are then inherent features are the sustainability aspect of that we are saving on the emissions as well as the cost things. Now, the future is now prescriptive. So that now it will not only be prescribing what action is to be taken, but also suggesting what all actions are required. So that is what we are also moving towards that scenario, wherein PIL is already working on a digital twin, wherein we are creating a replica of our asset so that we can simulate how to manage the maintenance part and how the wearing behavior will be done by such assets. So those all aspects we are considering and in fact implementing in PIL, which definitely is resulting not only the quicker decisions, even collaborations and faster communication with all the stakeholders.
Thank you, Neeraj. So while we are on the asset and we're talking about technology and digitalization, so my next question is to Puruji, again coming back to you. Now we are living in the world of AI, and any talk with the digitalization, we can't ignore AI. All of us have started using AI in our daily life. Even most of my analysis for any topics goes to an AI first to see what insights they can give. So how do you see, and as Neeraj just talked about from a reactive, and now we have moved to preventive, predictive, and now prescriptive maintenance. How do you see a role of AI in improving overall asset lifecycle management, reducing downtime for pipeline and other infrastructures?
Thank you for this question. And to answer this, I'll start with a statement. Any technical evolution requires maintenance evolution. Now, why this is important is because we have been maintaining our assets for quite a long time now. It's ages now. And with every new advancement which has been introduced into our assets, there is a revolution which came into picture. But our maintenance approach or strategies have not been updated accordingly. We are still following those reactive maintenance strategies where we are planning for a maintenance which would be something like a time-based maintenance. Say after every 6 months, we need to replace a particular piece of component. Now, with this approach, what happens is either we are over-maintaining our assets or we end up losing the efficiency of the product. So the ask here is to adopt a proactive approach, a predictive approach by leveraging the data, the volume of data which is being generated during the LNG manufacturing or LNG production. Now this data can actually help us to predict the asset life cycle. It can also help us to utilize AI-based algorithms to determine a particular scenario where the asset is going to fail and lead to a production breakdown. So these tools or the digital technologies nowadays are actually empowering the operators on the ground to be more proactive, take a necessary call, and plan the maintenance activities in a regular manner. Adding to this point, now the manufacturers have started thinking about a reliability-centered maintenance approach. Why this change in approach? Because we all have been doing the regular maintenance activities with our preventive approach, with our prescriptive approach, or a predictive approach. But with RCM, the advantage is we are able to approach the maintenance in a holistic manner. We are not only focusing on when to plan the breakdown, but we are focusing on the predictive outcomes which we have received from our digital tools. We are able to focus on trying to gather the information about the available inventory at our hand to plan that particular maintenance activity. And then we are able to keep a record for our future generations to manage those scenarios if faced again in the future. So this is something like a regular activity, a repetitive activity now being approached. And of course, this has helped customers in improving their equipment uptime by 10 to 15%, or they have realized an improvement in how their maintenance teams are engaged, and increased availability by 10 to 30%. So adopting AI or digital tools will definitely be helping us in moving ahead with our maintenance strategies.
Thank you. So from enough of technical discussion and moving to collaboration, as Maksoodji talked about. So my next question is to Amolji. In the morning, Sandeepji mentioned that I need to make sure that at the end price, customer price, the price is the lowest possible. So, and what kind of a collaborative mechanism between terminal operators, pipeline operators, CGD players, as well as regulatory bodies you would see to ensure that gas prices remain competitive and you will get a cost-effective gas supply?
Thank you, Puneetji, for this question. Firstly, as Maksoodji mentioned, I would like to compliment him for, thank you for thinking collaboration. Yeah. So India definitely has been a very price-sensitive market since beginning. So any customer, when we are onboarding even a domestic customer, because we are fighting for that space in his kitchen, though we are eliminating the cylinder space and putting a very small space for pipelines. Even for that space, we have to justify the economics, and we have to challenge the economics of the housewife, and then convince her, then convince the family, and get that connection on board. It's a very difficult process, yet our teams, all the CGDs, we are going into it. And to take it forward, to take it from 6 to 15, we need to do this very religiously. And as far as the collaboration part is done, it's not the collaboration only between the CGD company, terminal operators, and pipelines, exactly the way we are sitting here three. But I have to extend my hand and collaborate with other CGDs as well. So one way of collaborating is we have some limitations on the domestic gas. But if we CGDs collaborate, and again internally, after collaborating internally, we again collaborate with some of the terminal operators wherein we have some capacity, maybe reserved capacity for CGDs. Currently, the irony of terminal operations is that barring one or two, most of terminals are not operating at full rest of its capacity. But at the same time, it is very difficult for a CGD to get that because of the small volumes, getting that capacity. So that may be one of the way how we can collaborate. But this collaboration will not be effective if we don't have pipelines on our side, because that is the best and efficient way of reducing the cost for end customers. And that should be the aim of all of us on this panel, and definitely PNGRB is supporting that, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Amolji. And as you see that PNGRB has a plan of national gas infrastructure to be developed and providing pipeline access to all GAs. But as Maksoodji pointed out, traditional solutions may not be feasible, particularly in a situation like India, where laying down a pipeline is challenging. It's a federal country. You have to look at local laws, local issues also. So, Maksoodji, coming to your point, you mentioned we need innovative mechanisms to go towards 15%. Whether we reach in 2030 or 2035, we don't know. But we need innovative and different thought process. So you have talked about one of the few thought processes that you have already implemented. What other innovations do you see can come into the LNG or gas space, which would help support that demand of gas in India, and we move towards a target of 15%?
I'll take you back to 2012 or 13. 13, Sunitji would remember, we got the license. I'm referring to my old company where I've spent a lot of time. We had a place called as Palghar. It was outer area of Mumbai, just outside where Mahanagar gas regime or jurisdiction ends. We secured a license for there. To lay 1 meter pipeline, we had to pay 7,000 rupees. The people who don't understand rupees divided by 88 rupees to dollar. So 7,000 rupees is 1 meter pipeline that was to be laid. Now, if I try to connect a household in that regime, I would be spending almost, we did the maths, it was 150,000 rupees for one gas connection, and the payback was, I think, 106 years. For sure, none of us will, survive 106 years to see the payback of that investment. So the question is now that question is not for whole of pipeline business. It is pipeline the only option to take gas to homes? So we have some friends from LPG background, from OMCs, who have done reticulate business in their life. What was been done there? A hippo was taken, put inside a society. No trunk pipelines, no STPL, no HDPE pipeline. If you can put a LPG there and put the gas connection as we see the PNG today, we could bring gas at home. Replace that LPG with LNG now. Again, coming back to LNG, Puneet. We replace that in high-rise building in South Mumbai. It's very difficult to lay the pipeline. And with 7,000 or 15,000 rupees, if MGL is here, they can quote me. It's no more affordable to put a pipeline on the route which does not belong to your jurisdiction or the end consumer. We have been confusing ourselves with customer and consumer. Who decides the affordability? It's the consumer. If it does not suit my affordability, I will reject that fuel. Whatsoever your natural gas will be better fuel in terms of the emissions, in terms of ease, in terms of the pricing, till the time the overall cost of ownership is not lower than my other fuel, I will not be able to penetrate, whether it is home, whether it is industry, or whether it is truck. So if we have to do this, we have to change the views, and as I speak, we have been talking to one of the CGD operators. In the terrain of Bellary, rock is very, very solid. The cost to lay a pipeline is 10x. They have secured the license, but now they cannot do the connection. So I have offered my Torangalu LNG storage. I said, you put a DPRC, you put a high pressure pump, a high pressure vaporizer, take the gas from here, you bring your gas. Whether it is domestic, it is LNG, or whether it is any TTF or Henry Hub gas, you bring it, pay me the toll, which covers my cost of return, which can be 12 to 14%. I am happy to dispense it to you. So by this, the cost of infrastructure goes down. But the question comes, I have a commitment of my KPI. There, I am sure if you approach PNGRB, explain the difficulty, results will come. I have seen PNGRB changing from being a regulator to enabler. And I have been party to some of the discussions. Sunitji is here, and on our request, and it was my request to PNGRB, boil-off is a very big issue. They came up with a committee, I was party to it, Sunitji was there, some of our members are still here, and we could resolve it. We could come to a conclusion that if boil-off happens, it should not be led to air. The GHG will go up, it is more harmful than just burning coal. So solutions will be there, and for a change, Amol, we should start thinking. Thank you, Puneet.
Thank you, Maksudji. My next question is to Sunitji. How can, when you're taking ahead of PNGRB as well as your experience with Kate, how can country enable faster infrastructure rollout, particularly in the regions where demand is still evolving? Not all areas we have enough demand to put up, as Maksudji mentioned, to put up a pipeline which has a payback period of 100 years. So how can do a faster infrastructure rollout? One of the solutions Maksudji talked about, but what are the other thoughts we can make on those infrastructure side?
Right, yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to reflect on Mr. Devashish, he was saying about the LNG terminal utilization. So just wanted to convey that we are already working on, terminal capacity to be booked through IGX. So that is a welcome step. So even smaller companies can, approach IGX and through them to you. So for that, we are in an advanced stage, and probably IGX would be coming up with something very soon. So that would enable, terminal utilization better. Now, as far as, laying quick infrastructure is concerned, I mean, it has got a lot of dimensions. I was myself, during my formative years, I was construction in charge for a pipeline from Longtala, Pakistan border to Ramgarh. So that was a 100-kilometer pipeline. Temperature was 50 degrees centigrade there. And what we had to do was lay the pipeline within a period of 6 months. And we started off because during the summers you cannot be there on the site. So the temperatures are so high. So October we started off, and October 2009 we started off. And I think February, before the advent of summer, we were able to complete that pipeline because there was no forest. RUs were not an issue. So sometimes, you have, clear and clean slate and you can easily complete the projects. In USA, when I was looking after Gale's global operations, we were looking at some pipelines for completion and we spent our entire 5 years duration, but we could not see the light of the day. So we could not get some connectivities over there. So I think that leads us to think of what our friends are suggesting, new ways and methods to not only depend on pipeline and conventional infrastructure development, because ISO containers, as you suggested, LNG through trucks, and maybe more years. Like from US, we were given a contract to supply gas to Puerto Rico. So we and that American flagships are not allowed there. So we came up with smaller ships. So I think some sort of innovation is required. Now, as far as enabling infrastructure, particularly south, there is hardly any infrastructure, even though in spite of so many years of natural gas being here. Because if we look at the example of JHBDPL, east also it was similar. There was no gas pipeline, and in case we create an infrastructure, it has to be utilized. So I think the first step was creation and reviving of the 4 fertilizer plants in the east. So that served as the anchor load customers, HURL fertilizer plants in Barauni, Sindri, and Haldia, and then the Durgapur plant. So 5 anchor loads came over there. 6 CGDs were allotted to GAIL India so that these big cities could be developed. And Dhamra came up. So it was an integrated development that came up on the east side. And now the capacity utilization is also happening, and pipelines are being utilized, and gas is flowing to the eastern part of the country. As far as south is concerned, we see tremendous potential that south had. But if we look at the capacity utilization of these 2 terminals, which are running at Kochi runs at 22% and Ennore at close to 25%. So all put together 47% utilization of 5 MMTPA. So this means 2.5 MMTPA of utilization for the south. So that is the amount of LNG that is being consumed, maybe close to 9 MMSCMD. So even though south is not connected to the north, because this Ennore-Kodapalli pipeline is not connected, and the Ennore-Bangalore pipeline is also not connected. So these 2 have been islanded. But still, you need to have growth. When these are connected, ultimately volume will flow from south to north. But the south market is not developed. So I think we need an integrated approach. We need infrastructure to be created in that, in south. We need more fertilizer, power plants. Power, of course, it's a very difficult situation as of now. Then refineries, fertilizer plants. Then the CGDs need to come up now that we are moving from EVs, and a lot of incentives are there. But the CGD infrastructure is one good growth story. So in case Chennai, you see 0.3 MMSCMD, Bangalore, you see 1 MMSCMD, whereas these cities have a potential to go to the size of maybe Mumbai, if not Delhi. So there is a tremendous potential. So I think it requires an integrated approach to develop the markets and then complete the infrastructure over there.
Thank you, Sunitji. My last question is to Debashishji. And as Sunitji mentioned that demand is one of the key elements of developing infrastructure. Means you look at south of India, they are still not consuming, at least from their terminals also. So as an LNG terminal operator, and you talked about demand as the very first point. So as an LNG terminal operator, what policy or commercial interventions would you see that would give you a long-term visibility and thus the viability of terminal?
Yeah, before coming to that, see, I have a feeling, I am very optimistic about this. once we reach a inflection point, no, the pickup will be very fast. And the inflection point will probably come from this so-called expected glut in the LNG supply. So once the prices come to a point, I think the pickup will be very fast. And as many studies have suggested that probably the pricing will remain stable for up to 2050 from 26, 27 onwards. So I'm hopeful of that. Second, regarding the see, these projects are basically all high capex, whether it is the terminal, the pipeline, or the CGDs. So they have got a very high fixed cost, depreciation, interest, and all that. Fixed cost is very high. So once they reach a certain threshold volume, so they become profitable. So once they become profitable, I mean, the pickup can be very fast after that, and many of the incremental revenue will go to the bottom line. Regarding the interventions, commercially, what I feel is that probably government has now, with a new Josh, started reforms. So I hope that taxation is one reform. Bringing it under GST happens fast. So that will be very good for the customers, and the demand can definitely pick up. Pricing, as I said, pricing of LNG, I mean, that can take care of itself because of the glut. And PNGRB has been taking very proactive role in that unified tariff, particularly if it becomes one zone throughout the country. That will help us, particularly terminals like us, which are like located little more on from the major demand centers. It is a little away compared to the Dahej and Hazira and Dabhol. So I think the pickup can be very fast. Some of these interventions are needed. Some, of course, will solve on its own. Regarding that pipeline, one reform I would like to government to do is that ROU. ROU acquisition is one thing. No, see, a 1,000-kilometer pipeline, even if you don't get ROU for a 1 kilometer, the entire pipeline gets stuck. So that is something government should think about. Maybe come up with something which is innovative. I have nothing coming to my mind right now. So with that, I think we should be very well poised to reach that 15%, if not by 2030, maybe a few years down the line. But
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you, sir. So we have 3 minutes left, and I know I'm standing between. So any questions?
So you mentioned about the liquid LNG replacing LPG, liquid petroleum gas, at household level in societies. So the three oil companies which hold about 98% household share, why can't they replace LPG with cryogenic LNG? You just have to replace 50 cylinders in the bottom of society by a bottle of LNG. And the vaporization happens on its own because it's a natural vaporization. You don't require any operating cost for that. It's almost like LPG. So why can't the oil companies adopt that policy going forward? You have 30 million tons of LPG being used. It goes to bottling plants. It comes from outside. It goes to bottling plants. So much of subsidies, so much of money spent, even though today the LPG prices are quite low compared to what it was 5 years back, but still higher than LNG prices. So why can't this be done at household level in societies where you have 200, 500,000 houses in one society?
Puneet,
Yes,
may I answer?
Devashish.
Can I answer?
You can do it. You are a new LNG terminal.
Sir, Sharma-ji,
Yeah.
if you allow, can I answer? Can I answer it? Devashish can supplement it. Devashish can supplement it. But just to keep the moment light, how Puneet is sitting between the lunch and us, there is somebody called as PNGRB sitting in between the idea I gave and what you are suggesting. So if the CGD licenses gives a waiver to the oil marketing company or a collaboration can be established, then what you are saying is a very simple game. You exactly pinned it. And my stress is, if you try to compete, the competition has to stop and the collaboration has to start. This is a very feasible idea. People can achieve their targets very easily.
Let HPCL compete by itself. Their Chara LNG terminal has to replace LPG.
Right, sir.
Yeah, just wanted to add one thing. See, I'm also representing an oil company. So this reticulated system is already, wherever it is already provided by an oil company, why would they want to replace it by something else? Because LPG, all said and done, is much easier to handle.
No, you are replacing a cheaper fuel by a costlier imported fuel, although LNG is also an imported fuel, but you are replacing a cheaper, LNG is going to be cheaper compared to LPG in times to come. Take it from me.
So definitely, the new households, this can be definitely considered. But for existing households where it is already connected by a LPG tank, see, LPG in a housing complex is not stored in the cryogenic form. It is in the natural form, so it is much easier to handle. So that way I would say that probably not existing ones can't be converted,
Yeah,
but
but
definitely.
yes, it will take some time to get it, at least, even if you are able to replace 20%, you would be replacing about 7 to 8 million tons, 5 to 6 million tons of LPG, and that will be a big amount.
Sure, sir. So thanks, point taken. I think time is up and a lot of audience questions are there. So I will encourage audience to talk to the panel members over lunch. And I don't want to stop everybody for going towards the lunch. So I would like to close the panel now. And I will thanks Messi Frankfurt for giving us this opportunity and esteemed panelists to come on this panel and our audience members to take active participation in this.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your valuable thoughts in gas and LNG infrastructure in India. And due to paucity of time, we won't be able to take questions. But please feel free to connect with our speakers one-on-one during the networking break. May I now request Mr. Artyom Ukulov, Head Oil and Gas Trade Representation for Russia and India, to kindly join us on the stage to felicitate our panel. May I request Mr. Goswami to please come forward for the felicitation. Thank you, sir. May we have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our wonderful panel. May I now request Mr. Sunit Verma to please come forward. Thank you, sir. May I now request Mr. Amol Kulkarni to please come forward. Thank you, Mr. Kulkarni. May I now request Mr. Neeraj Pasricha to please come forward. May I now request Mr. Puru Saraswat to please come forward. Thank you, sir. May I now request Mr. Maqsood Sheikh to please come forward. May I now request our moderator, Mr. Puneet Goyal, to please come forward for the felicitation. Thank you, sir. May I request all the gentlemen to please come together for a photo opportunity. Thank you, gentlemen, once again for your valuable time in the LNG India Summit 2025.